start. First dates. We're talking about.
What's your ideal first date?
Okay, so my ideal first date would be meeting up in a public place. Safety reasons. Obviously, you can be chatting to someone online, but
Yeah.
don't know what they're actually going to be like. Are they going to be a catfish or what have you? So I think just as like a safety precaution, I like to meet up in a public place. I wouldn't ever go for dinner with someone and go and eat somewhere. Ideally, I have done in the past, but I think it's a bit too formal. Like you're facing one another. It's it's a little bit tense. I
It's
like
quite tense, isn't it?
yeah.
I do it, but
I have done it, but I think ideally I like meeting up, going for a walk. Obviously, it being winter at the minute, it's difficult to do that
Yeah.
enjoyably. So then you might end up just meeting up for a drink. But something where you're not going to be staying with them for ages. It might just be a couple of hours. Yeah, like I like, well, obviously when it's warmer, but I do like going for a walk and then going for a coffee
Yeah.
and then both going your own ways. And it's kind of like a necessary thing to do before you meet up on a proper official date, I think.
Yeah. I think first dates maybe an activity. I mean, I've done first dates that I've been eating and they've gone fine, but it is quite an intense date, isn't it? You do feel quite like under pressure, under an interview pressure.
I suppose it depends whether you know them as well.
Yeah.
And what kind of conversation have you had with them on the lead up to it?
Yeah.
Do you feel more at ease with them? Have you discussed, like, are you both quite adventurous? Are you both into things like going out and doing some sort of an activity like, I don't know, junkyard golf?
Yeah. Maybe those pre-conversations lead to like opening up about what you fancy doing, what you're going to do.
I think the first one needs to be public place, out and about. Make sure that if it goes horribly wrong, you've got a get out clause, haven't you?
Oh yeah, so quick.
Oh, I'm really, really sorry, I can't. I've just got a phone call. My babysitter's really not very well, or one of the kids is just sick.
Oh my God, you just give all your secrets away.
Oh no. Gotta go. So sorry. Bye. Do you know what? I've never had to do that.
No, neither have I. I mean, I've been on some bad first dates, but I've never.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, maybe one I did.
Came and met me.
Came and met you. Yeah.
Can I meet you now?
Yeah,
everyone. Been on a first date and it went awfully, so I've just come to meet you and drink instead. It was really good.
So you were just saying before we came on air, you were talking to somebody and they were saying about, do you mean the first date as in like the first meeting, or the first date as in the first official date?
So I obviously, when you're on dating sites and stuff, you have a little bit of a conversation to start with, and general questions are, where do you like to eat? What do you like to do? And I asked the question of what's your ideal first date? And he answered back saying, do you mean just meeting up and having a drink or scoping it out? Or so, I don't know how he phrased it now. Can't remember.
Scoping it out, so that's like,
something like that, basically.
Yeah.
Just
or the official,
or is it the
first
official one? And I was like, well, no, because I'd class that as a second
I'd class that as a
date.
yeah.
So that's my answer. I was like, no, I'd class that as a second date. The first one I think is definitely
That's still a date, isn't it? Like,
absolutely, it's still a date.
Yeah.
But the second date's going to be a bit more. You might go for food, you might go out and still do an activity. I think the idea of the first one being shorter, you're just going to check one another out to see if you click, because otherwise there's no point even sorting out a second date.
Yeah.
So how many dates do you think it would take you to know whether you wanted to continue seeing that person?
Well, it's hard, isn't it? Because obviously, like the first date for me is a big yes or no. So I wouldn't, if I was like put off by something, or I just didn't feel like we gelled, or I didn't like fancy the person when I got there, then after the first date would be the only date.
Yeah.
If I saw something and I liked something about that person, yes, probably like the second date, I would
You'd
think.
give them a chance.
Yeah, so I'd have like a second date, and then if after the second date I wasn't feeling it, then I'd just be like honest and say, it's just not for me.
Yeah. I think the first date, there needs to be, I suppose it's like a little bit of rules, isn't there? Like first date rules.
Yeah, and I think it depends on like we're talking like where you've met them. So if you know that person and you like through your like wider social circle or through work or something, but you've never really decided to do anything and meet up and go for a drink, then the first date can probably be a bit more intense maybe. But if like we do with the online dating, that first date is the official first time you're ever going to meet that person in real life. So it's a bit like terrifying, isn't it? You don't know what you're going to meet. You don't know
What you're
what
gonna
you're
meet.
gonna, you don't, do you know what I mean? Though you don't know what you're walking into, do you? Like you can have those conversations with people and get on like a house on fire, and it can be great. And then you meet together, and you're just a bit like, "Oh, what is this? What's happening? Oh, there's just no spark." Or
Yeah.
obviously, like people say that as well, don't they? Like there shouldn't be sparks because that's your adrenaline or something, don't they?
See, I
Which
don't.
freaks me out because I'm like, well, that's what I look for.
I do as well.
I need that like bit of encouragement, that like, oh, I'm really want to see this person again.
I want to be
Something
excited.
about-
Yeah. Whereas I've spoken to friends in the past who said, yeah, but like give them a chance. And I've done that and it doesn't work. It needs to be something that needs to be, you need to think about what it is that you need as well. Do you need more of a physical attraction? Do you need someone who's chatty? Do you need someone who's funny? Do you need someone who actively listens? Like one a big turn off for me is someone just talking about themselves
Oh my
constantly.
God, we've all been on those days.
And then you realise like actually it's been half an hour and I've not even said a word.
Yeah, and how off-putting is that? Like you can fancy the pants off someone or think they're hot and think everything's gonna be fine. You can get there and you can just be like, what is this conversation like? Not that you want to be like overly talking about yourself in any way, because I don't personally, but you want a back and forth conversation. You want to be like, you want to have some proper conversation about things, don't you? You don't just want to like sit, oh, like reel off like, I don't know, like when you get those awful, obnoxious ones that are like, oh, well, I own this house and I earn this much money and this is my job and that, and then you just like, oh, when they ask you things about your personal life, but um like about your job, but they're like, oh, tell me all about it, and you're like, why? I don't want to tell you all about my job. Like, is this an interview? Like, I don't want to sit there and just be like you want actual like normal human conversation, don't you? You don't want,
you want it to be relaxed though, don't you? If it comes up in a conversation where you go, oh, I didn't realise that's what you did, so then you wouldn't say tell me more.
Yeah, it's like when you're at work and like you've in like
an interview.
Or like one of those all made to go together, and it's like stand up and tell the team what you've been doing, and you're like, oh, like your insides just cringe, and you're like, can't do this right now.
No,
it's too much pressure.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's awful.
I do feel though that it is like having an interview, like on the lead up to it. So I think we've mentioned this is it when we did Situationship podcast?
Probably.
So whatever the last one that we did about dating. I feel like it is like an interview process. So you put your CV out there onto a dating site, and you match someone, so you might get through and it be approved or whatever. And approved, you're not approved by the other person. You've matched, you've connected, and then you either don't communicate at all because neither of you send a first message, because that happens with like so many people. Or
you send a message and just don't.
One of the two. That's just the standard, isn't it?
Well, no, swipe a few people like when you've been in a bit of a role, and then they start coming back in like they've matched, and you're like, what was wrong with me?
I was going to say something then, I've forgotten what it was.
Is that putting your CV out there?
Yeah.
You get approved. And what happens next?
You get approved, so you connect with someone. Then you've got to endure this. Can they hold a conversation via text message? I've been either inundated by loads of coffee, tea, inside, outside.
Oh, those question ones.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Tick box.
You've clearly just copy and pasted that to every single one.
Yeah.
Or like some people that try and be really funny, like I can actually put them into categories now. We had this conversation the other day, didn't we? Like, I don't even know how you would label all these different categories. Anyway, we'll come back to that one afterwards. So so you get through that process, you match with someone first of all, then you've got the next part of the interview, which is just engaging a conversation with one another. Then you might step it up to WhatsApp. And I think that is the test about whether it's going to go any further or not. They either get blocked or you might then go and meet up with that person. But I think, say like you did book a date in, that's still the interview process up until even getting to that point, because it might have taken you ages to switch it over to WhatsApp. Maybe you've had a phone call together and then to actually book a date in, but you've got to keep that text message going. If someone starts falling off and not really communicating with me, I think I'm not really that interested then.
Yeah, or that awkward one where you start chatting about your day in like just like you would with like sort of an acquaintance, and then nobody's making any steps. And I, like we were talking about this the other day, weren't we? I want, out of all, like I'm full on for women doing whatever they want, be strong, we're feminists, whatever. But I still want that. I like romance, so I personally think that the guy should ask you out on a first date. Like all the other dates, fine. And you can mention that you're interested in meeting up and whatever. But I think like, and you can both arrange it or whatever. But I want that initial like want of it.
That's your needs, isn't it? I think some people like to be the people that are in control of a situation. So it could be complete, it could be the woman that does it, but it's more so about what it is that you want and you need.
Yeah.
And I'm the same, feel a little bit traditional. I'd like someone to take charge, be assertive, make plans. I think maybe it comes from being a mom, like you're constantly making decisions
And I think
doing things all the time. And it's nice for someone to just make the decisions, plan where it is that we're going. You might have an idea, but I love to be romance. I love right, we're going to do this and I'll pick you up at this time or we'll meet here.
And I don't expect them to pay for it.
No, not
or anything like that. But I do want that initial sort of encouragement of like, I want to take you out and I want to do this with you. And
it's to know that somebody is interested, isn't it? If someone's going to message you every other week, they're not really that interested.
Yeah, and
what's the point of being on a dating site?
At the beginning of a relationship, any sort of relationship with anybody, if it's really like here or there and it's not really going anywhere and nobody's really like they're not making a lot of effort, then what's it going to be like in 6 months' time or like 10 years' time? Like you want to find that person that's reciprocating in the way that you want it, even though you might, and we've all done it, I suppose, you might force it a little bit because you want to have that connection with somebody and you're looking to meet somebody and you get a bit impatient sometimes, or you might be feeling a bit low, and you push for that, like, to meet that person, or you push to that person to message you or whatever. You shouldn't push it because you're never going to find that. You're always going to have that struggle then. You're always going to be the pusher in that relationship. You're always going to want more than that person can offer to you. And you don't realize at the beginning what you're setting yourself up for.
I think it's also like feminine, masculine energy. You know, you can have then you need to have a mixture of both. If you've got two people that have got very masculine energy, are constantly like chipping over one another and wanting to make plans and taking leadership, like someone in a relationship, one person does tend to take more of a leadership role than the other. So we're saying that we are more of a feminine role. Obviously, you can have it both. You can have it male or female that can have feminine, masculine roles. But I do like the idea that someone else is going to take more charge and be more assertive in that situation.
I think it comes down to like you said, like my mum's, and I'm a planner, like for my job, I'm a planner, I'm an event organizer. So that's all I do is just arrange stuff. And for us, I'll a bit arrange stuff, and for friends, I'll arrange stuff. So when it comes to like the opposite thing where you're being
nice for
that you want somebody to be like, and don't get me wrong, I'll book stuff once we get into that situation and I'll be excited. It's just that initial like, oh, you actually want to do something with me and you actually want to do something that's fun and exciting and something that I enjoy. It's all those things like, oh, that person is thinking about me, I suppose.
And as well, don't you think it's from previous experiences? So because I do plan things and I am forward thinking and I want to do nice things, you can fall in the trap of you're organising these things and actually are they making the first steps and are they the people that are wanting to do it? Because if you're forcing it all the time, like you said before, it's making a rod for your own back, isn't it?
And like you just said, it comes from experience. So we have been in those positions
and failed in that situation.
Failed, where I've just been like, let's do this, let's go here, let's do this, and they've been like, yeah, let's do this. But then actually, once you step back and stop doing those things, you see that there's no reciprocation of it.
Coming with that.
And then you're like, well, actually, what is this? It's just me doing all the stuff again because I wanted this thing to work and I thought it was going in the right direction, but actually it was just me all along. So those little things at the beginning, isn't it? That you think when you like looking at something and you think, oh, that's not quite right, but you become a bit of a fixer sometimes, don't you? And you're like, I could fix that and it could get better. And I've done this as well in the past in relationships. I could fix it and it'll get better. And if I did this and this and this, they'd grow but the person that I was with didn't want to grow, wasn't prepared or ready to grow in any way. And I'm a grower. So it was just like watering a dead plant constantly.
I love that. You can also have it the other way where you get people that are really, really full on and it's a bit it's a bit too much.
Oh, like a love bomber.
Yeah,
We've had those as well, haven't we?
we've had a lot of those.
Yeah.
So I had a story from last week actually. So we had a chat on one of the dating platforms, sent a picture to our group chat, which we all immediately decided was a red flag. Our friend who's married didn't have a clue why we were interpreting that this person was a red flag. We're like, because he's really good looking. And she's like, yeah, but give him a chance. We're like, yeah, but he takes the pictures that he takes are far too good of himself. Like, how would you take pictures like that of yourself? Anyway, so then I was like, yeah, but he's really good looking. Let's see. Let's give him a chance. Let's give him a chance. Anyway, situation went all right at first, and then this is where the decider hits, where it goes over to WhatsApp and you've got the opportunity to send pictures or videos to somebody. And this person went on to send, pictures of himself, not naked pictures or anything, but like pictures of himself, and then send a very damning video, very suggestive pictures, let's say that, and then a very damning video of himself in the gym. I can't even remember the song.
Oh, some like R&B, slow, smooth grooves.
Oh,
while he was like staring into space, doing some like pulls.
It was
something.
Yeah, and
don't get me wrong, it might be for somebody.
I genuinely think people like this because it must be going well for someone to still be doing that.
Yeah,
like you wouldn't
consider. But I always think the objective of those things is a bit weird. Like,
yeah, like what?
For me and you, anyway.
To respond to that.
For me and you,
brilliant, bravo on the really big muscles. Well done.
For me and you, those videos and those pictures mean one thing. That person just wants to have sex. Or they might not, but for us, that's what the experience has taught us. That person just pretty much wants sex. They really love themselves. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm all for a selfie. We love pictures. We love going out and getting dressed up and taking snaps. But there's a line. I've
never sent any videos of myself working out in the gym.
No, I mean, we do take them sometimes.
Not videos of me working out in the gym.
But yeah, and you wouldn't send that. I don't know. You just wouldn't. I
think it's the ick. I think it's something that gives you the ick. So it could be a picture. It could be even just a comment. And then I always try and see it with a comment.
Yeah.
Or even just something really weird. And I think I'm just not the same wavelength as you. Like, that's a really weird thing to say, or a weird perception of something.
I remember I was chatting with somebody like a while back, last year sometime. And it was going back and forth, and we kept misunderstanding each other. Like, he kept, I'd say something sarcastic and jokey about something, because that's who I am. And then he wouldn't get the joke. Then I'd have to explain the joke,
which makes it really not funny anymore.
Which makes it not funny at all. And then you're just like cringing within yourself. It makes the whole conversation weird. And then at the end of that, after explaining it, it'd say something like, "Oh, right, yeah, I don't get it." And you'd be like, "Oh, okay, like, I don't where this conversation's going, and I can't even look at myself anymore. I need to put my phone away because I feel so disgusted." And just like loads of just misunderstood. But that's like personality types, isn't it?
And that's life, isn't it? That's, I think sometimes we overcomplicate the dating situation. You are just communicating with somebody else. So rather than seeing it as like a huge thing where going on this date and you've got all these kind of predispositions of what it's going to look like, how it's going to, what it means, you just go in meeting up with someone, and if you connect, then you connect.
Yeah.
Because some people are on these sites just to make friends, apparently. Never met a friend on there.
We were talking about this the other week as well. Like, I went on a first date with somebody just after Christmas, and like the feedback, and that's going well and it's fine, but the feedback when we were talking about like the first date, like what did you think, what did we perceive in each other, was very much in a way of, he was like, well, I didn't think you liked me at all. Like, I didn't really get that vibe because it was very like interview like, and I think I'd got to a phase last year where I'd done it so many times, that first initial date, meeting up with somebody, and it just carried on, and then I've been on a few dates with somebody, and then back to the drawing board again, and then and I got in that rhythm of just being like, right, let's do this, let's go for a date, let's sit down, let's have a coffee, let's just talk about stuff.
Do I like you, do I not? If not, then I'll see you. I will not see you again.
And I think I just got impatient, and that could have really like because we've been on a few more dates and it's going really well, but that could have really like been a negative for me. He could have just been like, well,
Yeah,
she
because first
she wasn't feeling
impression.
it.
Yeah.
So that I think sometimes maybe you need to well, we have to step back out of that, don't we, and reassess it. If it's not going well and you were getting a bit frustrated with it, which I think I was, but I wanted to be out there and do it. I think sometimes you do need to just have a bit of a step back and be like,
Yeah, I think first dates you've always got to account for the fact that someone could be really nervous, or it might just not have gone particularly well due to that.
Yeah.
So I think it's good to meet up for a second date.
how do you know like when you're ready to date someone? Like if like us, I suppose if you've been single for a bit, or you just single, or you just started being single and you're not really sure, like you eventually want to meet somebody else. Or if you've been in and out of dating or whatever, how do you know when you're ready to go back into the world of dating or straight into the world of dating if you've never been in it?
I think never being in it is quite scary, isn't it?
That
And
was
yeah, I
terrifying.
remember feeling so sick when I went on my first date.
Yeah, so we've been in that situation of like long-term marriages with children since we were younger. So, and I met my ex-husband when I was like 15. So at 32, 33, when we 32, when we split up, well, it took me a while anyway, a year or so, but to like actually go back into that dating scene, and it was
Completely different.
I was just snogging people at college, and going, and that was it. And then I met this guy, and then that was the rest of my life. So to go into a world where you've got to push yourself to meet people, and it had massively changed because now it was all dating apps, and it was all
and dating apps are so
completely
scary when you first
different.
started.
It's like the most scariest thing. I think when you want to meet somebody, but I think you get some people, you get into a bit of a rut, don't you, where you're either a bit down or you're stressed about what's to come.
I think you need to feel, obviously you can never feel in a completely good place mentally, but I think you need to have had some time in between dating, so in between getting with somebody else. So if you've been in a long-term relationship, or even if you've just been in a relatively short relationship,
Yeah.
I feel like it's really important to just take a little bit of time to just put yourself first, self-care, and think about what it is that you want and what it is that you're looking for. Because I honestly believe that every single person that I have dated, I've learned something from each of those people.
Yeah, I would always say that. Even if it's been a negative experience in the end, like you do learn stuff from everybody that year.
Yeah, but then I think you need to take some time to think about what it is that you want. So when you're on these dating sites and it says, some people are looking for short term, some people looking for long term, some people are looking for just friends. I think you need to firmly establish what it is that you're looking for. And previously on dating sites, I would say, a little bit about me, what it is that I like. Whereas now I'm pretty much to the point on there. It's not a very long one. It's just like things that I like and what it is that I'm looking for, and quite to the point.
Yeah, that's like that. You kind of have to grow into it because, like you say, when you first go on into these things and at first put your profiles together on these dating apps, you kind of think that you want to put stuff that you like and what's about you really. But what I find works now and with you is concise information about what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So because those other things haven't worked for me, because you're not being self-explicit enough to be like to the point of I want a long-term relationship.
Yeah.
I want a life partner or whatever. And these are the qualities I look for in a person. I think that's what's important now for me.
Yeah, and even the whole short-term fun, like I'm not looking for short-term fun. I'm looking for someone to go on dates with, and then it progressively lead into potentially being in a relationship. So for me to interact with someone that is not looking for that, it is a waste of my time and a waste of their time as well. I think it's really important to clarify what it is that you want when you're going into these conversations. Obviously, you don't need to be, go on a first date and you sat there. So, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Yeah,
And no, but I just think as a general, what is it that you're looking for? And I've done it before where I've matched and had a conversation with someone who hadn't put that on his bio. And I asked the question, what is it that you're looking for? And when he said what he was looking for, I was like, not really. That's not really something that I'm looking for.
Yeah, I've been in the same situation. So I've matched with people in the past, and then I've got like messages off them that I've just got an initial message that's been like, someone even messaged me and was like, just to let you know, I'm moving back to Canada in 6 months. So whatever if you're just up for like a short term thing before I go to camp, like, well, no,
Yeah,
like,
thank you.
well,
but
mine
no.
clearly says what I'm after. So why would then I want to date someone, get attached to them for 6 months, and then need to run off to Canada? Why would that be something I'm interested
But
in?
some people would
Yeah,
be fine about that.
yeah. I mean, I don't get the. I don't know. I suppose the short term for maybe you've got like you're working away a lot, or I don't know, and you can't, you're not ready in a place to settle.
But the point is, you can be looking for whatever it is that you want to look for. But I just think it's being fair to yourself and being fair
Yeah,
to
you
the
need
other
to be honest.
individual.
Yeah,
To be honest, I think that's one of the worst, one of the first rules of dating, being clear about what it is that you're looking for, and being honest about what your intentions are, because otherwise you are just wasting yourself. You're wasting your time really, and you're wasting potentially somebody else's. And also, I think some people go onto these dating sites, or maybe it's not through a dating site. I know that's been the topic of conversation at the moment,
yeah.
but
It's
maybe
what we
just
know, really.
going, you can get set up on a blind date, you could meet somebody on a night out. Ultimately, some people might start dating and then part way through, and I've had this a number of times as well, people just not really being ready to date and not realizing
I don't
it.
think people realise. Yeah,
No, not realizing it until they've started dating and then feeling like they need to continue doing it and continue meeting up for dates, whereas actually they're really not ready. They need to go and take some time for themselves. And that's a tricky bit, isn't it? I think it gets to a point where you're like, so where is this going? In which direction are we going? And I think that can be
yeah. I think if you get to that point where you're actually questioning where it's going, then I think you just kind
not
of know, the answer, don't
exactly.
you? I mean, it's hard to admit because we've all been there where you like somebody and you've grown a bit of an attachment to someone, and you think, oh, this is great. But then if you sit back and really think about it and think, so you know what? I don't understand where this is going or what it's doing, and that's your answer, isn't it?
I think you need to go with the feeling, don't you?
Yeah. If you feel, what's that thing that we saw? It says, if somebody likes you, you'll know, and if you feel anxious, then they don't.
The idea of forcing something, you shouldn't need to feel. Obviously, it works two ways, doesn't it? So if you need to put some effort in and they need to put some effort in, but if it's feeling forced, like you have to engage in this conversation, or it's becoming a bit mundane, it's feeling forced and it's actually not worth it.
Yeah, it's hard though. Those, especially like when you first get back into the dating game, you think you meet somebody, and then you realize that they don't know what they want, or you don't know what you want. It is a hard conversation to have, and it's hard to look at it. And then, but then you have, because you form that attachment, haven't you, again? And that's hard because you think you've got a bit of an attachment to somebody, and then, but it's trying to understand and pick apart those attachments and realize, is that actually what I want? Do I want to be in the same situation I was when I was married? Do I want that because this might lead to that, because it feels wrong, it doesn't feel right?
Yeah. And am I doing it for the right reasons or
Yeah,
not? And sometimes there's a lot of pressure, isn't there? That's a normal conversation. Oh, have you met anyone?
yeah,
Are you dating?
yeah.
Um,
So what are the other rules of dating? We said about being clear about your objectives.
looking in the right places. So you've said this to me previously, haven't you? Danielle's on a dating site called Hinge. I can't use it really. I do need to try and use it more, but I use Tinder quite a lot. And Danielle just phrases it as a hookup.
Yeah, well, that's my, it's
Your
personal preference,
experience
and
of
that's
it,
my
yeah.
experience of it. It's always very, whenever I've used Tinder in the past, it's always been very sort of hookup culture-ish and a bit, and I've always had those people that want to send pictures and want your Snapchat, or those but that might just be the people I'm picking.
Yeah.
But whereas I found Hinge to be, Bumble's okay because you're sending those first messages, but I find it a bit slow. And then Hinge, I've really liked Hinge because I don't know, I feel like I've been able to be clearer, but that might just be because I've grown a bit and now I'm using that.
Yeah.
So it feels like the me putting out and getting back the same responses is clearer there. But I don't know.
My advice would be just to pick one.
Yeah.
Really, and use it for a period of time. If it's not right for you, then move on to something else. I think to have your finger in all these different pies, it just gets a little bit consuming. And there is scope for just going on a night out with your friends, or just kind of meeting up with someone that way. But personally, that's not happened to me very often.
Yeah, I've never pulled on a night out. I've never really, but I'm not open to it at all. I'm never in the headspace of doing it. When I'm out with my friends, I'm out with my friends, and I just want to have a good time, and I just don't think I'm ever in the right place to. I probably got a big F you sign on my head, like I openly admit it. I'm not a forthcoming person that would just be like, come and speak to me. Apart from if I'm in the girls' toilet, then obviously speak to everybody. That's what you're doing. But yeah, there's lots of other options as well, isn't there? There's like, as well as the general dating apps, there's also like people that actually do it for a living, like proper date match people.
Ah, right, okay.
Yeah.
Like
So
speed dating, you
yeah,
mean? Like going
well,
to-
no, I've got a friend that runs a company, and she does she like it's like an interview process. So you'll go and you'll meet her. Obviously, these things cost money, and it depends on your budget and what you want from the rest of your life. And it's normally for busy working professional people, because she does all the legwork for you.
Yeah.
So you go and like, it's kind of filling in like a dating profile, your CV, what you want, you know, what sort of person you're looking for, even down to like what sort of person you want to meet, what do they earn, what do they
Oh, wow.
do, you know, things like that. So it's very, very specific and tailored.
It's not a bit like that.
Maybe, yeah.
Oh, not the much, but yeah.
Yeah, there's a few new dating apps that I've seen. There's one called The Victoria as well. That looks quite good, but it looks very similar, and it's like selective, so you've got to apply for it and send your information off, and then you get the information back. But I think there are very specifically tailored things. There's also one I saw, not an app, but on Facebook and Instagram. I think it's called like Single Mingle or something, and it's not an app. It's a community, and they do nights. So a bit like speed
okay.
dating, but you go in your age category. So they do each 10 years, so 25 to 35, 35 to 45, you know, whatever. And then they put on nights in, we live near Manchester, so in Manchester they've got nights, a couple of nights every sort of quarter.
Oh, right.
And then you can go to these single mingles and just mingle, I suppose. And they do some games. I've seen like different games and things, but there's lots of different options. It's what you've got time for, what you're willing to do. Yeah.
Um,
So we already said that, didn't we, really? Being honest about your intentions and clear about your objectives.
yeah, searching for a common ground. So that's like where you were really not kind of understanding one another. There's a lack of communication there, or a communication breakdown.
Yeah.
I think if there's hobbies and interests that are similar, which is good that you get to see the profile beforehand, because I think before you just start randomly starting swiping people, it's good to have a look and see whether, you know, you've got similar hobbies and interests. It doesn't always need to be that way, but if you've got someone who's really, really adventurous and is out doing all these things and going to the gym, and you're really not that person, it might not work. So it's going into it with a little bit more of an understanding before you just start looking at somebody's appearance and swiping.
Yeah, I've been on a date with somebody. They actually know from the past, but we went on a we used to work together. So like when I was a lot younger, so we'd had like a bit of common ground, and he's good looking, and I was like, oh well, you know, the conversation we'd text a little bit, and I was like, hi, because we'd swiped on each other on one of the dating apps, and we'd talked and stuff. Conversation was going fine. But when we met up, it was very obvious that we had completely opposite sort of ways of life. Like, I'm outgoing and like to go places and do things, and he's like, what comes home from work, wants to stay at home, and just that's it really. Like that's what he likes to do. And I was like, well, I'm not. And he's like was quite fearful of like going out and doing things.
Right.
And I was just like, that is
not going to work.
That is
yeah,
it's absolutely not going to fit. He's a lovely man, but it just like I don't want to change my life. I'm adaptable, but I need that like outside adventure, doing things,
yeah,
because that's who I am, and I need that in my life. So you have to just you have to be honest with yourself, and don't just. It's one of the 5 rules of dating at the bottom is take your time. So don't just think, oh, these things match, and it's fine. It's going to be fine. We'll be a great match together. Take your time and really like understand how your lives are going to fit together a bit.
Because you don't want to plan too far in the future, but also you need to have a little bit of a reality check to think, can I see myself with this person in the future as well?
Yeah.
I was going to say something then.
Oh, do you think it's good to be around someone or a person in a similar situation? So we're quite lucky because, and I think it helped me. I don't know if it's lucky for everybody, but that me and Alex have been in similar situations with dating. So we're both single, and we both could just talk to each other about what's happening on the sites and what we think about these people, and do you think these comments are normal, or you know, like not normal, but you know, what do you think about these things? And we just have those conversations with people rather than just like navigating it blindly on your own.
Yeah.
It's not, do you think it's good to have that?
I do, especially in the early stages. I remember sitting with my friend, having a glass of wine, and her highlighting that I'd not been on a date because I'd split with my ex-husband the year before. And she was quite adamant that I needed to get on a dating site and I needed to do this. And it was a push that if she hadn't have pushed me, I probably wouldn't have got into it doing that, because it scared me. So someone to help you set up like your bio to get started, because I think that, especially if you've never done it before, it is like putting your CV out there, and you don't want to get it wrong. And God, think about what your first bio was like in comparison to what it's like now, years later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think having that conversation, because I've had it in the past where someone said something, or I've screenshot messages and immediately someone said, oh, definite red flag, or yeah, I wouldn't trust that, like it's too full on straight away. Or I've had, so it's just, I think sometimes it's affirming in your head, or if you're being like, I'm quite positive, and sometimes I need a little bit of a reality check, because I might be racing away with me, and Danielle's like, yeah, remember, our standard thing is, remember, he could always be a psychopath. There's always a chance for him to be a psychopath. So yeah, I think it's good to just have somebody else to talk to, just to check. And even if it's like my grandma's on dating sites, and she's been out for a date with people before, and I'm like, make sure that you tell people where you're going and give me your number. Make sure that you ring me when you get there, and all this. Make sure you meet in a public place. I mean, this was a while ago now. I don't think she does it anymore. But I remember being that, as role reversal. I'm like, if you can't, you need to be in a public place. Like, going down all these rules with her. Make sure that you do not meet them by yourself, and make sure you ring people and make sure they know where you are. Yeah, and think about it, if you were doing it for, I don't know, younger siblings or younger cousins and things like that, you've got that protective element where you want to make sure that people are looked after and that they're safe.
I think you do need somebody in that sort of same environment, or that's someone that's been in that same environment, especially if you're just starting, like you said. Because I remember downloading, it must have been Tinder for the first time, and just being like, what am I doing? What is this? How do I navigate these conversations? How do you prune your matches? Because you can swipe on a few and get a few matches. And do about them.
I think that I will. It depends what mood I'm in when I'm actually swiping. I can swipe as an immediate thing, or I can, if I'm thinking that I'm going to swipe the other way, I can have a little check of the profile before I make that decision. I feel like I'm way more picky now than I have done previously. So I spend a bit more time doing it, whereas previously it would be a very much like looking at their appearance, this way, this way, this way, probably being quite vain, but thinking, could I be attracted to that person? So definitely first impressions of attraction, and then having a look to see about their interest beforehand. So that would be the initial pruning stage. And then when I do match with them, it depends on whether they contact me, whether I choose to contact them, how it progresses from there. And I think the pruning stage is very, very quick for me. Unless I immediately start to have some level of conversation and a little bit of a dialogue, I really don't think that there's much point.
Yeah, no, I'm exactly the same. So that initial attraction needs to be there. And I have done it the other way, where I've been like, just read about him. Don't be so vain. Like, just, chat to somebody that you're not initially attracted to. And it's this never worked. So
there needs to be some level of attraction.
Yeah, you need that initial attraction, don't you? And then obviously, like for me as well, looking at it's not whether they've got kids, but whether they're open to someone with children.
I think it's really important. Yeah. I've learned this from experience. Even people that have just got one child, I think I need somebody to understand what it's like to have children and have to coordinate having the kids, have to coordinate, like I only get one day a week not having the children. So when I get that time, it's really precious, and I can either spend it by myself, I can spend it with my friends, or I can sacrifice that time to go on a date with somebody. So then if someone was to cancel or not value and respect that time, I immediately get really, really offended and naffed off. And I think the advantage of having someone who has got kids and, does have to coordinate childcare or time around the children just gets it more so. But again, that's from my experience with the people who I've come in contact with.
Yeah, it's that time management thing, isn't it? You need somebody who's going to be like, right, these are my free days, these are your free days, here's what we can work out. And then also someone who's going to be like okay with the fact that you still have to have a relationship in some form with the children's dad, and you've still got to work that out, and you know, so that they're mindful of the situation rather than being I think when you date somebody who, me personally, who's dated people who haven't got children, they can become quite selfish, and whether that's because they mean to or not, I think it's just a bit of, well, that's my time, or that's what we were going to do, or we're not going to do, but we could do this or we could do that. Oh, you've got to be back for that time for the kids. Can you not swap? Well, no, could you?
Can't swap days,
You can't swap day. I mean, occasionally, obviously, yes, you can swap days if you've got a good relationship with the other half or whatever, or you can get a babysitter. But those things are hard to do and they're hard to negotiate, and they have knock-on effects to other days and other things. So you just need somebody who's mindful of that time management and those relationships that come with that time management. Yeah, so then, yeah, looking at that, looking at whether they're okay with the kids, or I've got 3 children as well, which I also really try and talk about in the first sort of, if we match and we have conversations,
so that they're aware of
so
it.
that they're aware of it,
Yeah.
because it's a lot. And if they've got 2, 3 children themselves, that's 6 children, you know, like thinking obviously like that's very far in the future,
On track for
but you know, it's like, to me, not bothered, absolutely not bothered. Love
what
kids.
kind of car would we have to
Yeah,
get? Like,
do you know what I mean?
the thought process.
Yeah, but that's something that I think you need to make. Yeah, it says I've got children, but I've got 3 children.
Yeah,
So
so we will need a minivan
yeah,
in like
so
5 years' time.
we're gonna have to have a mansion. And
Yeah, no pressure. This is the first date.
So I think that's something I always kind of drop in on the first start conversation. This is my situation, so that somebody, and then I've had it the other way, where if somebody has been chatting a little bit to somebody first couple of conversations, and they've gone to me like, oh, and I see you've got children, that's absolutely fine. I actually want children, my own children. So how do you feel about that? How do you see that in your future? And
how do you see that?
and I have done. I am done.
asking.
Obviously, it's something dating somebody else who's got children, absolutely fine, because they've been born and they have survived a while on their own, and I can do it. Like I can mother somebody else. That's absolutely not a problem. But no,
Okay.
yeah, it's not for me. So that is was an honest conversation that we had, and actually we're still friends on Instagram a little bit, and he'll just like check in every now and then. He's like a nice person, but that isn't something I want for the rest of my life. I
think these are crucial things to say. If you're being really clear about what it is that you want and what it is that you're looking for, then you're not going to get hurt. Well, you're not as likely to get hurt in the process. I just think it's really, really crucial to have these conversations pretty early on in the relationship. Obviously, you don't want to just initially start having a conversation and start firing loads of things at them, but there's certain things that I would tend to ask, like, so what is it you're looking for?
Yeah,
that's it. Just open-ended. Yeah.
Well, that's what you need, isn't it? And that's like learned behavior for us, isn't it? So what I would like, if you're listening to this and you're thinking about going into the dating world and you've not done it, I would make time to think about your objectives and what your intentions are and what you want for your future. Not so you can bombard somebody, but you're ready with those questions and answers when they come into conversation, because they're important. And as much as you think, oh, well, I don't want to tell everybody about my baggage, or, you know, about my children or whatever's going on in my life, because it's just an initial conversation. Those initial conversations kind of need to have some detail about your life in there and what your everyday life is like.
Yeah, and he said something along the lines of he's something like 2.5 years single. I've done my solo traveling. I've done this and that. Basically saying that I've had that time.
Yeah, no,
and I'm ready to do something more long term. Whereas you've got a lot of people that are on there that maybe have just split up with somebody, or that have been in a serious relationship for a long period of time, and they just want to go out and have a little bit of fun.
Yeah, all those people that have been in a long term relationship just decided very quickly to go back into the dating world, and then think they want a long-term relationship
and realize that they actually don't.
I think that time alone, whether it comes at the beginning when you split up with somebody or when you realize you need that time alone, is just really crucial to your self-development and your growth. Like, you need it. You might not feel like you need it, and it is hard to deal with, but you kind of do need to understand yourself, especially if you're coming out of a long-term relationship, a really long-term relationship where you kind of a bit lost, aren't you?
Yeah.
You don't know who you are. Like we talked about this in previous podcasts, but you don't know who you are. You don't know what you like. You don't know anything about what you really need, because it's traumatic coming out of something like that. So you need that time to reset and think about
Rebuild
your
your
life.
life a little bit more. Yeah. I think some people go into the dating scene with the wrong view, thinking that they need to be with somebody, or that society is telling you that you need to be with somebody because, you know, people get in relationships. Whereas actually, the need, I think, first and foremost, is to look after yourself and to get yourself into a good place, whether it's mentally, physically. Not that you need to be physically fit in order to start dating. I don't mean it like that.
Yeah.
But I mean that you want to feel confident in yourself. You want to feel that whoever it is that you start dating is going to add value to your life, but it's not going to be the person that your life revolves around. Yeah, because I think when you are in a relationship with someone, you know, you do have to make allowances. You do change your personality type a little bit to accommodate that other person, whether it's negotiating things with your schedule, whether it's, you know, I would never ever really sit in an evening and watch a film, because I just don't do that. I'll go in bed and read a book. But obviously, if you were dating someone, it would be more so, let's sit and watch a film. Let's go to the cinema. Let's do that. So there are things that you would be more inclined to do if you were dating someone, as opposed to if you were by yourself. So your lifestyle does change a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah. And if you come out something where your life's been turned upside down and it's completely different, then you do need to find out that you need to sit in that time on your own, don't you? Like you said, you need to work out your own routines and what you want from your day, and then I think for us as well, having those single times where you've just been on your own and you've spent all that time alone and you've got used to your own company and you're happy within yourself. When you do go into the dating world, you're a lot better with your boundaries. Like you know what you want, you know that you want somebody that adds to your life, and you don't really need somebody that you're going to have to work on or fix in any way. You just kind of want somebody that's going to add value, bring like joy and happiness into your world without being draining or
I think it depends on the kind of person that you are, the kind of personality type that you have. So if you're like, I'm quite empathetic and I am a fixer and I want to support somebody, I think when you have worked on yourself beforehand and you're going into the dating scene with that behind you, you can analyze things a little bit more. And you can, rather than just going with your emotional attachment, you're leading it with I think you're viewing it. I can't get my words out. I think you're viewing it with your eyes are definitely more wide open. You can see it for what it is, and you can actually preempt things now. And that comes through experience as well. You know, like when you're looking at it, is this relationship becoming more one-sided? Is it, you know, like what we said before, is it me that's constantly suggesting that we do things together, or is it both ways? When we're having conversations, am I the person ringing him or is he ringing me? Is it a dual thing where you both kind of put in equal measure or within reason? And if it's not like that, then you can take a step back and you can see whether it is worthwhile carrying on. But unless you've put that self-care in prior to that, you might be more inclined to be swayed.
And you might be worried again. Like once you know you can survive on your own and you can be in your own company and you can enjoy your life in that way with your friends or, you know, with your family or whatever, and you're going to be happy. Once you start dating and it's not going in the right way, it is easier to analyze, because you can take a step back and go, you know what, I don't need this. Like I can be on my own and I can be happy and I can do things and I can live a nice life that I like, and then I'll wait for somebody that is going to add to my situation and is going to make me feel the right things and not anxious. Or it's that, like you say, it's attachment, isn't it? And I think once you've been in a long-term relationship, if you start dating too soon, you can form like you can get really anxiously attached to people because you don't want people to leave you, and you want that company and you want that connection with somebody so bad, that you feel like you need it, so you consume by it.
It might be worthwhile, if you haven't already had a look at attachment types, you can do little quizzes and things, just to see what kind of attachment type you have. You could have secure attachment, anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, and you can have these different attachments for different types of people. So by doing that, it highlighted to me that I could be anxious attachment with certain people, and that's just because of the way that they behaved, not communicating with you on a not communicating in an appropriate way, or kind of leaving you hanging a little bit, making you question things. And I think it makes you analyze and be a bit more aware of who you have a secure attachment with, and that's a healthier attachment to have.
Yeah, and like reading up on it, like you said, and having a quick look, like I saw we've seen stuff in the past where it said like about drip feeding you. So like we've just been talking about like you're talking to someone, chatting to somebody in there, and you're waiting for their text. You're waiting for them to text you. You're waiting for them to respond to your messages, and it's getting like further and further apart, or it's really like sporadic, and it doesn't really make sense, and it's making you feel really anxious about it. But when you get that like little message back, you instantly your adrenaline and your dopamine's like, oh, they've messaged me back and it's like me, and then it's another day before they message you again, and they don't respond, but they've been online and things like that. And that the drip feeding you that little anxious bit of dopamine, and then when you get them, you think, oh, he really likes me, and then you're anxious and you're worried again. So it's recognizing those feelings and recognizing that this is just making me feel anxious, and but it's the dread of, oh, but then I've got to break it off again, and then I'm going to be on my own again, and then I have to start again from the beginning. But you kind of, it's sad, but you kind of get used to it.
Yeah, and also I think you
get a bit hardened to it, don't you? Which, like I said earlier, can make you a bit interviewee and at dates. But I think we've covered a lot of ground.
Wow. I think maybe we didn't mention about what your green lights are, I suppose.
Yeah. So for me, green lights would be good at texting back, good at responding to you, arranging things to do, looking forward to spending time together, asking you about your day, all the nice things you want. Doesn't have to be constant, but just like not worrying about, should I text that person? Should I text that person? Should I text them now because they've not texted me? like not feeling like not getting those anxious feelings is like a massive green light for me. I'm not anxious about this at all. That's great. But then I've been dating someone before in the past, not had any anxious feelings, and then I've just been ghosted and it's gone. But then that helped me reflect on it and be like, well, actually I had a nice time. It's fine. What are your green lights?
Really? Yeah. I think when I meet up with, so those are green lights, I think, on the lead up to actually meeting up with somebody. And then for me, one of my big things is communication.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the initial stages, communicating what they want, what their needs are, forward thinking, forward planning, like someone who, I think maybe that's a need that I have, to feel like I am wanted, or that I am important, that someone is communicating that with me and making plans.
Those are my green lights too. So good luck on your dating journey. Don't be disheartened. If it's not right, it's not right. If it's not right at the beginning, it's not going to be right at the end, is it? So you'll be all right.
Clarify the 5 rules.
Yeah, 5. So the 5 rules of dating, we think, are:
so be clear on your objectives,
look in the right places for you,
be honest about your intentions,
search for common ground,
and take your time. Don't jump in. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for joining us. See you soon.
See you soon.